Hey, I'm live. All right. Hey, it's MikeRatner.com. It's been a little while. Hope you guys are doing good. Not that I've got any real great fellowship of people watching my stuff, but hey, look at me. I should really try to do a selfie before I do this, but it's okay. All right. So this is just a quick overview of me getting really deep into the book concept of IGO. If you follow me or know anything about my recent writing over the last 3 or 4 months, I came up with the idea of IGO, and you can see that on the academic paper page. It's a Google page, igoism.com, IGOISM.com. So the IGO is the selfie of the mind. It's the idea of a self-projecting the self-image. It's like when we imagine ourselves. So anyway, if you are working with me on this project, because I'm hoping to get a top tier book agents who pitch this, because I think this could really be a good book, or my other ideas like lovingconversations.com. I like to do very thorough research in the way that I like to back up my references with more references and go deep into my source material because I want to make a valid argument or claim to what I'm doing, even though my ideas might be a little bit on the cutting edge, let's say, like the whole idea of an IGO. People say, well, why do you need to call it an IGO? Well, there's no name for it. So we should have a name for it. The selfie of the mind. What is it? We all have it. And in psychology, there's different uses for it, but we don't have a name for it. So the self, imagining the self, that doesn't work for me. So let's go deep into it on a psychological level, get into philosophy behind it, ontological reasoning, and also how we can benefit personal growth wise or sort of come to a sense of what I have in mind. So in order to do that and backing up the references, I buy a lot of thrifty books or borrow from the library or go online to Google Books. So I want to make a strong case for whatever it is I'm taking under, my wing to write and research, because I want to be able to know if anybody else has come close to my ideas, or I can innovate off of what the existing literature offers. So, let's start. Anyway, I'm just going to flash a couple books up, and this again is to show my imagined IGO agent that this is a serious undertaking. I'm going to go deep into the material, down the rabbit hole, and that's what it's all about. So, if you follow the early days of self-help books, and we're talking about before Wayne Dyer, big hit first book, Awareness Zone. That was the first book he wrote. Maxwell Maltz was popular in the 60s and 70s, and he came up with the idea of psycho-cybernetics, which is the idea of imagining, oneself. I guess he came from a background where he was a plastic surgeon, and you could tell some people have a certain attitude about when they came into the surgery, whether it was going to make a difference or not based on how they perceived themselves. So self-esteem and all that. This book is called The Power of Self-Image Psychology. And again, I haven't read this particular book, but I know his work from back in the days. I used to do promotions. I had a talk show back in San Francisco in the 80s called The New You that inspired me to do the Success Club later on. And so I'm a little bit familiar with his work through Nightingale Conant's material. And then just build a positive self-esteem, the disappearance of introspection. Now, this has got to be a good book. And this is the science of what annoys us. So what would get us going in our mind. I should throw this book out there too. I mean, Gail Sheely was really quite amazing because she wrote about the different stages in life and passages. This is her story called Daring. And I got a lot of reading to do. So just off the hand, I'm not going to be able to read every page, let's be honest. So I will look at table of context, the index, and I trust spirit or the universe that I can flip through stuff and I'll find passages and certain areas where I might read a few chapters and this is exactly what I'm looking for, or again, come back to it repeatedly. But, I'll get a feel for it. And sometimes I will read the whole book, like this one, obviously. I just lost my bookmark. Sociologically Examined Life. Brilliant by Michael Schwab. Of course, I'm Michael. I'm dropping my books. Self-awareness, because it all comes down to this IGO idea that if we could be a little bit more aware of our thoughts, words, and actions, TWA, which is the flight you take every day, your thoughts, words, and actions, then we'll have a better sense of this. Now, this book, I'm a little familiar with this book called Mirrors of the Self. Now, this is more Jungian, so this would be a little bit more studying about archetypes and probably the The Shadow Self and things like that. I haven't read it, but I know about that book though. Here's Self-Perception. Now, it seems like back in the 70s and early 80s, we were much more into this. I think things cycle a little bit. So I think hopefully what I'll be doing now is going to lead that, because what I want to do is help people wake up from the mass trance. And you have to be aware of your own thoughts, words, and actions. Otherwise, you're in the mass trance. You're other than aware of your own thoughts and the words you're using, the quality of your messaging, and the way you're showing up, actualizing yourself and acting out. So we want to help people wake up from the unconscious civilization. And John Ralston Saul is in Canada, still alive and kicking. I'm making a point to talk to some of these authors and interview them. I don't know if IGO will have its own podcast, but certainly Loving Conversations does. Okay, this is Self-Illusion. So I started reading this. You can see I got my bookmarks in there and stuff like that. So it's the idea. So there's different schools of thought about this. If you talk to the biologists, they don't believe that the mind can conceive of the self other than it's an illusion. So there is no self in the mind. That's interesting, right? Because I imagine myself in my mind all the time, and I might be imagining you. So we got to get into the material. We got to lay out all the arguments and how people view it and what it is. Is it just brain chemistry, or is there really a sense of self? Or is it just something that, I don't know, is our evolution going to be, we're going to be more aware? So Mind's Eye is really interesting. This is a compilation of different writings, a little bit on the sci-fi end, because they're imagining ourselves in the future, or how the brain could be hooked up to some computer, perhaps AI, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's interesting, but I think a good backdrop, and it informs me to what I'll be writing about. So I did my homework. But the IGO really is simply studying and getting a sense of who it is and how it is that we project ourselves in our minds, imagination, and what purposes that holds, and how we can perhaps benefit on it. By the way, did I introduce myself at the beginning? I'm MikeRatner.com. IGO is one of my projects, but if you want to get an overall view of my philosophy, and IGO is not on this particular website, but you can get a clue into my philosophies. My ontology is really the better word. Philosophy of being, how we can ultra be, and what the backdrop would be. So that would be grandtourideas.com, grandtourideas.com. But anyway, from MikeRatner.com, my website about me, you can get that. And then finally, Real Happiness. This is like, I suppose, like a 30-day meditation type program, because I can see IGO becoming a therapy. Like, distinguish IGO from ego, right? So the IGO is just simply what we imagine, but we could probably go through a series of exercises. I wouldn't call them meditations per se, but more contemplations. And they would be visualizations and different types of exercises to feel the space. My other writing, Weltslosh, can be accessed through grandtourideas.com or weltslosh.com. So IGO could become a therapy in the way that a therapist could work with someone and try to divulge what the imagination is revealing. And it's amazing that they don't quite do it yet, although you may say this tradition does or whatever. I'm not sure. But my sense is, given my background and really kind of decades of research, I've yet to see this on this level. And I think it could become a quantum leap, because if we can grasp this, we come to some sort of awareness, which would be then a mastery of the who I am in the way that I'm choosing to project, or modifying that element that we want to change, or bring forth the possibilities of transformation, being the best we can be, or as I call it, ultra being present, ultra being loving. My formula, UBE3. Ultra being an excellent example of enlightenment as you know it to be. All right, I'm going to close it down here. I just wanted to give that. That's only one set of books. This is just because I just got about half of those in just now, today, believe it or not. So I thought I got to share it. Plus, if you're looking to represent me, or you're a publisher and you go, okay, this guy's doing his homework, and you can see some of my other writing, and you can go to igoism.com to see already my argument for it. Now let's make it palatable for the average Joe that wants to know about their IGO. So IGOISM.com, igoism.com. I'm MikeRatner.com. Thank you. Check it out.